Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. We're going to begin our meeting with a series of public hearings, and then we'll get to the regular meeting, hopefully at the 7 o'clock hour. So the first public hearing is for ordinance O-19-6, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach adopting the annual budget for the general fund of the Town of Chesapeake Beach for the fiscal year July 1 of 2019 to June 30 of 2020, and setting the municipal tax rates. And FYI is that an amendment will be made during the regular portion of the meeting to correct a typo. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on ordinance O-19-6? Hearing none, is there a motion from the council to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Next, ordinance O-19-7, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach adopting the annual budget for the mitigation fund of the Town of Chesapeake Beach for the fiscal year July 1 of 2019 to June 30 of 2020. Anybody in the audience care to comment on ordinance O-19-7? Mitigation fund? Hearing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Next, ordinance O-19-8, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach, Maryland, adopting the annual budget for the Water Reclamation Treatment Plant Fund of the Town of Chesapeake Beach for the fiscal year July 1 of 2019 to June 30 of 2020. Anybody in the audience have any comments on this ordinance? Hearing none. Finally, move to close public hearing. Right,
Second.
yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Thank you, Madam Vice President. Got to keep me on my toes. Charter Amendment Resolution CAR 19-1. A resolution of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach amending Section C-723, Purchasing and Contracting of the Charter of Chesapeake Beach to increase the threshold for the requirement of approval of a contract by the Town Council from $5,000 to $10,000. Just as an FYI, in the regular part of the meeting, I expect an amendment that would require, a report from Town Council for the amounts between $5,000 and $10,000. Anybody in the audience care to comment on this resolution? Hearing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the ayes have it. We have about 5 minutes, and then we'll start our meeting promptly at 7. Thank you. Do we need air conditioning or anything? Did we? Okay. Well, thank you. Neptunes. She is. With her girlfriends having dinner, yeah. Come up and take a picture, but did you want to say anything, or you just?
Use that money to support a lot of We had an excellent turnout. Raised than any of our practices. So,
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm going to bring the council up in a second to take a picture of you handing that check to us. You know, just for the record, because I can. 60 years ago, my father was a Grand Knight at the Knights of Columbus, Santa Maria Council in Philadelphia, and he'd be proud to be here if you could. So, thank you, and if the council doesn't mind, we'll. You gentlemen have 7:30 Mass up the street, so we won't be offended if you go to Mass. Thank you again. It was an honor. Okay. For the main show of the night, I wonder why everybody's here. Okay, I'm going to, in a second, I'm going to hand the ball over to our esteemed principal. But just FYI for those in the audience, we have we're going to honor the winner of the If I Were Mayor, I Would essay contest, Layla White. We have a semifinalist, Timmy Avant. So we really, in this contest, which is a statewide contest, Beach Elementary just took the rest of the state to town. We have the Logo Robotics team, we have the Mesa team, and we have the first place girls chess team. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Mike. And
All right. Good
do you
evening,
wanna
Mayor and Council. Thanks for having us again. Just for everybody else's understanding, the mayor comes to us every February, March, and invites us to participate, our fourth graders to participate in what's called the Maryland Municipal League's If I Were Mayor essay contest. And we've been doing this for a while. We did it with your predecessor, Bruce Wall. And this year, we were glad to have some folks who were recognized. We had some winners years ago, but it was, let's say, a quiet drought for a while. Our first district winner is going to be Layla White. She's going to come up and share her winning essay, and she'll be followed by Timmy in a second. All right. Close.
If I were mayor, I would try to create a safer and more enjoyable neighborhood. My main focus would be the safety and well-being of my constituents. I would also work on more readily available healthcare options for the residents and build a park for families with dogs. Chesapeake Beach has many small businesses and communities are hard to access, so more sidewalks and traffic lights are needed to cross the oftentimes busy roads. A medical center could prevent people driving more than 20 minutes to the hospital or other centers. Lastly, so many families have dogs. However, there are no dog parks to enjoy. In order for me to accomplish my set goals, I would hold local town meetings to propose my plans. I would also go to the local businesses to help fund sidewalks and traffic lights. With the help of the Parks and Recreation Department and other funding, I would open a dog park. I would talk with the hospital to extend services to the area and opening a location that would provide more access for my voters. I would use the internet to post daily updates of progress I have made and our positive outcomes. I would hold town hall meetings for updates on progress. To celebrate the progress, I would hold a neighborhood party in the newly built dog park. As mayor, I would use all my available resources to improve the community to make it the safest and friendliest place to live.
Thank you very much. And if you,
So you can see what's dear to Layla's heart would be healthcare for humans and space for our dogs. Our next honoree is Timmy Avon. Now, we submitted 73 essays to this essay contest, and Timmy was one of the district semifinalists. So he's going to share his. Come on, closer.
If I were mayor, I would stop all the commercial building in the town and no more housing developments. The town of Chesapeake Beach is getting overpopulated. All of this overbuilding is bringing the town more crime. There are too many changes going too fast. I would also stop the netters from netting in the Chesapeake Bay and lower the limit time for catching rockfish, as they are becoming extinct. The limit should be one rockfish per person. I also would have a nice center for just kids to go and play games or hang out with their friends. Besides the recreational center where everyone is allowed, I would also set up a mentor program for kids to learn how to protect themselves when needed. Also, residents should not have to pay to attend the beach with their families. I would get my community and fellow officials on board to help by having a town meeting to discuss my concerns. I would walk around and discuss what changes need to be made and ask people to sign a petition to help make this happen. I would email my neighbors for help to make our community better. I would set up a benefit with food and games and invite everyone around to get a more positive ideas on how to make things better in our town. In conclusion, I think the community would benefit from my suggested changes, and I hope the people of the town would agree with my changes. As one person, I cannot change a lot, but as a group, we can make a big positive change for our kids.
that's great. That's great. Principal Schishler. I'm going to go a little off schedule. I'm going to ask Layla and Timmy if they'll come up here, have their picture taken at the mayor's seat. Each of you come up. We'll get an individual. I guess Connie's out there. You could take. Okay, we'll get them one at a time.
It's good that you should say that, Mr. Mayor, because both are running for office in 2032.
Good. We'll let the lady go first.
It's the
Probably
photo op
just
and
want to
the
stand, right? You want to sit? That's fine. What are you more comfortable with? You want to hold the gavel? That's always a good one. I'll get out of your way. There you go.
Okay, and Timmy's turn.
I think she likes the gavel. Great job. Thank you so much.
Mrs. Smith, you come up close. Very good.
Somehow I thought Mom and Dad might want that photo op.
And Mr. Mayor, before you move on, I'd like to ask Layla's mom if her daughter could join my Welcomable Community Committee as well.
Yeah.
Great ideas.
Yeah. Good job. Sir.
Any other fourth graders in the group to stand if you wrote an essay too? Yes, stand up. So we have something. Again, we had a total of 7.
Great job.
As the mayor said, this is an annual statewide essay contest for the 100 municipalities.
157.
157 towns and cities that are part of the Maryland Municipal League. So it's A lot of entries, a lot of competition.
A lot of smart kids down here. Thank you, sir. Okay.
So, move to our next group, and we're going to ask Ms. Stetson and Mr. Forrester to come forward. They were our Mesa coaches this year, and we have any of the Mesa team members come up with them. Ms. Stetson's going to explain, and Mr. Forrester will explain what the competition is all about.
You guys stand up in front of them. You guys just make a line. You want to face them. You guys get back up. Hi, I'm Siobhan Tetson. I am a fourth grade teacher at Beach Elementary, and I am also one of the MESA coaches. MESA stands for Math, Engineering, Science Achievements, and it is geared to get kids thinking in the STEM fields at an early age. So we have 17 members. Unfortunately, not everybody could be here today. You want to talk about your group?
Sure, we have one group that built, the wearable technology group, built a belt that can measure the respiration rate for babies. And then we had another group that built a theme park ride, basically a spinning amusement park ride.
They did a great job. We also had a third place winning Basswood Bridge. Elijah was on that team. Anybody else from Bridge here? No. They won third place. Their bridge held, correct me if I'm wrong, 15,000 grams. So it was pretty impressive. It actually held as much as the first place high school team bridge won held. So it wasn't quite as efficient. It weighed a little bit more than the high school team. And we had our Scratch team. Scratch is a computer program by MIT that's designed to get kids programming, and they had to make a game that explained the history of space, and they did a fantastic job. And they also all had to present about their engineering process and how they planned their events. So they did a great job. Great group of kids.
Great job.
Many future scientists ahead of us, I think. So thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to get a picture. We're going to get a picture of you guys later after we get everybody done.
We'll have the grand photo op, and we're done with all three groups, okay? So folks only have to get up once. So you guys have a seat, you'll be coming back for them.
Just as a retired civil engineer, hang in there, guys. It's a great profession.
Next, we want to showcase our Lego robotics teams, and that's going to be reading with our coaches, Mr. Joel Helm, Ms. Mary Sterling, Ms. Frances Acorn, Ms. Becky Gladfelter, and Mr. Smith here. And Lego kids, come on up now.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll start us off. So we had 4 Lego robotics teams. I don't need a mic, I have a loud voice, so. Each team gets a robot, and you get to design it in a different way. You'll see, like, we all design our robots, and you get a course laid out. And on that course, you have different obstacles you have to have your robot do. So you design your robot, and you create your own attachments, and you have to code it. So each team has a laptop with the EV3 coding, which is a Lego language of coding. And it's a block style, so they will design it to go certain ways. And we go, and you have 2.5 minutes in the competition to do as many obstacles as you can. And so we had 4 teams go in there. All teams did really well. And did you want to show?
Sure. Colin, you want to talk about that? So this is our robot that we created. And you want to talk about, so this attachment, you want to tell them what it did? Sure. Talk to the group.
Or you can use
Oh, or the mic's right here.
I don't mind. All right.
So, so we did.
There it is.
All right. So this contraption got the truck and ambulance in these little houses and we pushed them to the base, the yellow base.
Good job, good job. And then so we would take out this attachment and we might have a different attachment. So then it would come back to base, would take this out, and we might have an attachment that looks something like this. And so we would put this on our robot, and when the motor came down, it would pick up our animals and then bring it back to base. Once we had all this, we put all of our goodies in this attachment, put it on the side of our robot, and put it into a special area on the mat that got us a certain number of points with this. So all this coding, when did we start, everybody? When did we start?
October.
We started in October. How many times a week did we meet? We met once a week for about an hour and a half, and to make our robot, to make all of our attachments, and to get all of our coding within 2.5 minutes. What did you all learn? What did you learn?
I learned that if you work as a team, you'll always succeed.
Awesome. What else did you learn?
Like you need teamwork, that you need to rely on your teammates, and you need that faith that they'll rely on you.
Yeah, a lot of teamwork, relying on others. Anybody else? What else did you all learn?
Well, it's a lot of stress, so you just gotta keep your head on.
Yeah.
If something
Attaboy.
goes wrong, then you just gotta come up with a quick solution.
What else did you learn?
You have to remember your box of attachments.
Box of attachments.
It's fun.
Oh, say that one again.
It's fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. So we placed,
Yeah, so we had, with the 4 teams, there were
I think 34 teams.
34 teams there, and it was Tri-County with Calvert County, Charles County, and St. Mary's County. And my team got the, raise your hand if you're on my team. This is my team right there. They got second place out of the 34, and they got the presentation award because you also had to create a project. You had to define a problem, and with it, once you defined your problem, you had to come up with a solution for your problem, and then they created a video that we uploaded on YouTube and submitted to show our problem. Our group did teaching younger grades like kindergarten, first grade, how to be prepared for any type of a hurricane to come in, talking about, they made a video on, things to keep at the house for emergency stuff and how to do the drop-in cover. And they did a little video of it, and then we recorded them presenting it to the first grade. And so they got the presentation award for that.
all right, what did we get? Since we're talking about the project, we got the project award. Do you want to show that? So my group, if you're on the Terrifying Tornadoes, raise your hand. All right, it's raise them proudly. There you go. All right, so I have 3 here. I'm missing 4. But so we had the Terrifying Tornadoes. What did we do our project on? What's Scratch? Scratch is what? It's a coding, yeah, it's through MIT, and it's a free online code. You can create games, and so we create a game for other students to go in and play to remember what you need in a hurricane preparedness kit. It's one thing just to say it, but the way to get to kids' hearts is through a game. So the more they play their game, the mentality was the more that they'd remember it. So we ended up winning the project award for that. And then we had the honor of Mayor Mahoney coming and talking to us about the town preparedness for Chesapeake Beach. And then, Sean, what do you have in your hand? So we got 3rd place, so we're very proud of that with our robot.
We're proud of you.
Dr. Schisser just wanted us to show.
Dr. Schisser wants to make sure we state for the record that it was your team and Miss Sterling's team, right?
Yeah.
Co-coach.
Yeah.
Miss Sterling was the
Yes.
co-coach.
Yes.
And Mr. Davis is not here.
Ms. Agron, raise your hand. Ms. Agron had a team, and Mr. Sippert had a team, but I don't believe he's able to join us tonight. So this is the first year we had 4 teams. In the past, we've had 1, then 2. Last year, 3. So it's great to see 4. I think we were the only school in the competition that had 4 teams. So.
And just so you guys see, Jameson, just run a code. Get on the floor, just so you can,
You may have to stand up to see what he's doing there.
Yeah, So he's just gonna start it just so you can see what the, I mean, I don't have any of the attachments on it, but this, you can imagine a Lego board, which I think it's like 8.
It's on a sheet of plywood. It's like picnic table size.
It's like a picnic table.
Or ping pong
Yeah,
table,
that's what
4x8
it's
thing. Yeah.
And so, James, you just run any of them. No, I can turn it on, relax. And so just kind of show you what it does. Now, granted, we have attachments on it, but, so you can see. So, and so then we have it, you know, so it goes and it's moving around all the different obstacles, grabbing things, pushing them over into the corner. Now, I don't have the, we don't have the attachments on, but it pushes things in and then tries to bring it back. It hits different.
Oh, watch it.
So, but you just kind of see, and like every movement that it has, the kids have the code. And as you see, I mean, we're getting boys and girls involved in coding and, you know, a lot of the technology field. You want to say?
Yeah, I would just add that Indira mentioned that there's a lot of stress at competition. Part of what we train our teams for is to handle that stress and what they'll do in that kind of high pressure 2.5-minute situation. They do get 3 opportunities to run the robot for 2.5 minutes, and they really have to think on their feet. So all of these kids and all the kids who were on all of the teams really did a fantastic job handling that pressure and kind of knowing what to do in the kind of panic situation. Fortunately, we didn't have too many of those, but each team, I think, did see a challenge like that in at least one of their rounds. So they're really great at thinking on their feet, and all the mechanical engineering and the computer engineering and those kind of things that go into this. They really, really have done a great job.
And to put this in perspective again, with the 34 teams, when we got to the quarterfinals, the final 8 teams, there were 5 teams from Calvert County. 2 from Beach, Sunderland, Calvert Elementary, and Huntingtown. Or Barstow, yes, okay. So Calvert County had 5 teams in the final 8. Then we went to the semifinals. We had both of our teams in the semifinals, and then we had Mr. Helm's team against another school, and the school was from Charles County.
Mitchell.
Walter J.
Mitchell.
Walter Mitchell Elementary, who also placed 2 teams in the quarterfinals, and then one of their teams in the finals. So it was a really, as Indira's already told us, it was a very intense competition, and we do have photographic proof of how intense it was for some of these kids. But we're not showing it tonight. So, right. So, any questions from the council before they sit down for a moment?
Congratulations.
Yes, we're proud of you. Thank you.
So you guys have a seat, and we'll bring you back up in just a moment for the. And if you are on our girls' chess team, come on up.
Pretty cool. Uh-oh.
Cam, you guys can just stand.
Uh-oh. These are the smart guys here.
So this
Hey, everybody.
all these things that we're talking about tonight have happened within the last 2 weeks. But last Saturday in Baltimore was the annual Maryland Girls Chess Championships, and we competed again. We had 15 girls from Beach. We have Haley Marie Dunn, who's now at Windy Hill Middle. She's a former Beach student. Haley and Bella, Rachel Ann Bella, they competed in the next section up. There were 3 sections. There was the championship section. There was the 1,000 rating to 500 rating, and then there was under 500. Bella and Haley Marie had to compete in the middle section, which was 500 to 1,000. They had to play 4 matches. They each won 2, and they both tied for 8th place, but based on those computer tie breaks, Haley Marie got the 8th place trophy for that, individual trophy for that. The rest of our team, we were in the under 500 section, and the way they do this, even though we were the largest group there, again, they only take your top 3 players and the scores of those players. So we had, again, many of our girls couldn't be here tonight because of other commitments and the fact that it's the first night of the spring break. So we had Kiara Johnson, who won 4 out of 5 matches. We then also had Ryan Horn. Ryan, raise your hand. Ryan had 2 wins and 2 draws and just lost 1. So the way this works, if you win, you get a point. If you get a draw, you get half a point. So she came up with 3. Kiara had 4, and Isabel Markham. Is Isabel still here? Oh, I thought she came in. Isabel Markham also had 3 wins. So it was those top 3 scores that gave us 10 points. the next school, which is Green Elementary from Baltimore City, they had the #1 player who went undefeated for the day, and they had the second place player who had 4 out of 5 wins, I believe. And so they had 9 points, but thankfully, collectively, we got to 10 points. And I tell the folks that are playing, if you can win a match against somebody from another school, that's a point that they don't get. Or if you get a draw, that's a half a point, or a point again that they don't get. So every half point makes a big, big difference. So again, it was the first tournament for Bria, raise your hand, I believe. Julia Humler was her first tournament. Second, excuse me. All right, and Bridget Putlitz, it was your first tournament. And Karen Hinckley, it was your first tournament. So it was, and I always tell the kids, come to a tournament, see what it's like to play competition from other schools. That's the big learning curve. If you can handle that, then you'll be in good shape. Haley Mary, you've been playing since 2nd grade. So, and she's a 6th grader. Ryan and Bella, you've been playing since 3rd grade. You think 3rd? I think 2nd for you too, Bella. I kind of remember you at the beach tournament as a 2nd grader. So it takes time, and if you stick with it, and one of the messages is perseverance, problem solving. Now here's the question. I'm going to put them on the spot. Tell me something that you see as a benefit for you playing chess. Use a mic, right over.
Problem solving.
All right, anybody else? Karen, come on up.
Calibrating right.
It helps you relieve stress.
Okay. Especially if you win, right? Okay. Now, same question, but slightly different. How does it benefit a girl to play chess? Karen.
To show that girls can do as much as boys.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I think she nailed it. Yeah. That's the message we want to get across all the time. So we're really proud of all of our kids. Do you want to start reverse?
I do.
Order? If you folks want to come down, we'll start doing pictures.
Okay.
All right. So we'll start with girls. You're going to just stand in front of the council members. We'll take their shots first, and then we'll bring back Legos, and then we'll bring back Mason. Okay, maybe on second up. Let's have all the kids come up. Let's do one big picture. Let's get all the parents up here. All right, all the kids come on up. We've been coaches, come on back up.
Wait, should I bring the robot?
Just get in the picture for now, okay? Mason, kids, come on back up. Everybody come on up. Layla, come on up. Yes. I'll sit in front of Mr. Helm. Everybody up here, Mr. Forrester. Everybody pictures. Last call. Cheese. Suzanne, face the cameras. Pick 3 cameras. Look at them.
Keep smiling.
It's hard.
Okay, are we good? Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you. Let's give her a nice round of applause again. Okay, parents, we thank you very much for coming tonight. We know it's the start of spring break. And have a safe weekend. We'll see your kids on Tuesday. Parents, remember it's a 2-hour late arrival on Tuesday. Right? So you can sleep in a little bit. Thank you.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
You do now?
I'd just like to congratulate Dr. Sisler on all the wonderful things that you're doing at the school. Good job.
I'd also like to thank Ms. Gonzalez Wilson, our Vice Principal, for being here tonight. Right back there. Mr. Tony Navarro, my McCann. Former Beach Vice Principal, former principal at Mount Harmony, now with Career Technology Center. So, thank you, Mr. Navarro.
It's a good turnout considering spring break.
See you, man. Boy. I feel like going home after that. It's hard to continue it. They're a blast. Jeez, man. Thank you, everybody. Nikki's still here. Yeah. Okay, boy, that was fun. Before we continue, I'd like to recognize Town Council Member Mickey Hummel, who's over there. And I see the Reverend Dunn is in our presence. Thank you, Reverend, and thank you for your prayer last week at the event. It's most appreciated. For those who don't know, Reverend Dunn lives over at the Fishing Creek community, and he helped us the other day when we were in remembrance of those that we lost. So I appreciate your coming. Next, we have the North Beach Volunteer Fire Department. The council has seen the report. If we have any questions, please funnel them to Larry. Deputies report. We've read the deputies report. Does the council have any questions of the lieutenant?
Lieutenant, I'd like to ask you just a few words on the hit and run that happened in Chesapeake Village, if you could just briefly summarize.
So there was a hit and run in Chesapeake Village off of Lauren Court. Subject hit a mailbox. Initially appeared to be cooperative with the deputies when he got there. As they were walking back to the cruiser, the subject took off running, but they were able to identify him. He's been charged with leaving the scene of a property damage accident because he took off running. We weren't able to prove driving under the influence of anything, so, but that's the gist of it.
No children involved or anything, because there are a lot of children that play down that street, and that's one of the.
Happened pretty early.
Good, good. All right, good, good. Thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. Public Works report. We've read the Public Works report. Do we have any questions of Jay? We'll start with.
Just a quick observation with the railway trail. Some of the railings are really starting to pop up. And so I don't know if you can just pop them back down or, you know what I mean? But
Sure.
I just want you to be aware
Thank you.
that they're really starting to pop.
Starting to heat up, and that's what happens.
Sir.
Thanks. Jay, I mentioned to you prior to the meeting, I was going to ask you two questions, and these are questions that were asked from some members of the community, so I'm just forwarding the questions asked to me in reference to the fire at Fishing Creek. The first was, there was some concern that there wasn't enough water for the fire service during that event. Do you know anything about that, whether that was a concern?
Yeah, I was actually there, and that wasn't a concern. We had plenty of water, and they even drafted from the creek, so in theory, they had endless water.
Okay, great, thank you. And there was also asked that there was some concern that early when the initial fire began, that there was no notification to evacuate to the folks that lived there within Fishing Creek. Have you heard anything about that, or have any?
I can't speak to that. I wasn't there right when it started. I can't speak to that. I did hear that people were videoing instead of calling 911. That's just hearsay. So.
You know, Reverend is here. I was wondering, have you heard any concerns in terms of folks that were being notified? I wasn't initially in town either, yeah. But thank you, and I'll pass that on to the folks who asked me. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, Greg.
I'd like to follow on behind what Councilman Cumbo had mentioned regarding some speculation about water issues there. I know that I had spoken to Eric Brumley, who's a volunteer fireman here in town. He had confirmed that there were no problems with water availability. There was nothing like that. And he's not here tonight, but he's a remarkable individual. I was supposed to meet with him that night about an unrelated issue, 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and I was sitting there and I got a call before the meeting time from Eric Brumley, who had been fighting the fire for an hour and a half, and he took the time to call me to tell me he couldn't make it to our meeting. I just thought that was remarkable. Jay, the Windward Key 2-inch line feeding their docks, what is that? Is that something the town should be fixing?
It's on our side of the check valve, so yes, it's underground. It's past our meter, and then it goes up and it comes on their side. So there's a valve there. It's kind of, most marinas are like that. We have the meter that has to stay underground because it's always charged, and then we have like a curb stop valve that'll feed it, so it was in between those two. It's not your atypical setup at a meter.
Right. Okay. And could you elaborate a little bit on the damages to the ball field that I think we're going to discuss that a little later, related to Les there, but okay, we can wait for her. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, council.
Mayor, if I can add one thing, just so we know, and one of the things that the town pays for is, so when the fire initially happened, actually I got the call from Maryland, so I was there pretty quick, very first setup. The very first thing I'm able to do with the town is pull up on my phone our water towers. So I can see their status, what level they're at, and I manually turned on 2 towers before they got empty to call for it to come on. So it was nice to be able to not only be able to do that remotely without calling anyone, I could turn on all 3 towers right there watching the fire, but also I could watch their levels. So if any tower went down or anything happened, I was aware of it. So I actually called one of my coworkers while I'm kind of dealing with the scene and other issues that was able to watch it live and see our status. So I can tell you, and it's recorded data, we never had a water supply issue. And I just want to say that because that's one thing we pay for as a town. It has other purposes. Obviously, I watch the water not for fires, but it's nice to be able to do that remotely. And the town is definitely with the times as far as that capability. So I just want to pass that out there. That's SCADA. SCADA.
Yeah.
Remarkable
Sure.
comments. That's great.
Yeah, that's really great, Jay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
and I can tell you, the day of the incident, you know, I was speaking with the state fire marshal, whoever he was, and we had, or maybe it was the day after, we had one of those little, I call it a little bulldozer. What was the thing we had that was going there? And the long and the short of it is, he came up to me and he said, thankfully, the town of Chesapeake Beach has this here, because sometimes it takes me a day or two, he was speaking about himself, to go around the state and get this little bulldozer thing, you know, to borrow one, you know. And he said, you know, you guys got one here. And, you know, the conversation, you know, led to sometimes counties and towns, whoever, you know, you purchase these things for the sake of an emergency. And, you know, we as a group can sometimes be, you know, counting our pennies and say, oh, maybe we don't need it. Not this group, but, you know, municipalities. But we happen to have something right there. Calvert County happened to have, you know, everything that they needed in case of an emergency. So it was a well-prepared town and county for this event. And I applaud all the elected officials, not only here, but that go back and made these, you know, smart procurements. So that's my only comment there. Thank you, Jay. Code enforcement report. We've read Connie's report. Do we have any questions of Connie?
I had a comment, Mr. Mayor.
You have a comment? Sir.
Without getting into too many of the details, it's just a comment regarding, looks like citation 19-23, the complaint on Dolores Court, if anybody's read about some of that in the paper. As a immoral act, in my opinion. I'm closely following the developments of that. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. County engineers report. We've read Paul's report. Do you have any questions of Paul? I'll start with Derek.
Well, so about a month or so ago, there were some signs up that the traffic pattern on the bridge was going to change, as they progressed in their work, and that obviously didn't happen. Could you provide an update on the status of the project and is that, the work that they were going to do, changing the pattern on the road, is that still going to happen? Just basically an update on where we are in that project.
Just because I'm kind of day-to-day with them and attended the partner meeting. So they had an issue, they were scheduled to do that and actually top some roads. They had an issue with some underground conduit for Verizon. And they had to retrofit and replace some to get it to a newer spec and code. So I think they'll be back on course here probably by the end of the week, and then they'll probably sign again. What I've heard in the field, they might change that traffic pattern and try to do it all at one time. So that's kind of up in the air, but that was postponed. But it will be back, probably by next week.
And the overall project still on schedule for a June finish, or like early June? if I
Correct.
remember right?
Correct. That did set them back a little, but I think they were going to finish maybe even a little early, but they're still on the original finish date.
Great, thanks.
Sure.
Question?
Sure.
On the bridge, I've noticed, is there going to be a top coat put down on, what I've noticed on the east side that is open, when you look at the curb and the road surface, there's a gap there. Do you know, is there a top coat that's going to be put down there?
I don't think there's a top coat that's going to go on the actual bridge where it's concrete, but to the north and south.
It's
Yeah.
the sides, actually, not the actual bridge part, but the sides, that there seems to be a gap there.
Yeah, I can check on that, but I don't think there's any or asphalt on the actual bridge.
I don't think so either. I think it's all concrete. It's just the approaches. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
So they will top coat everything other than the concrete at the end,
Stuart. We'll go.
Just very brief, Jay. Boy, it's amazing over the last 5
This-
years
this-
to see what the increase not only on the Beltway and Route 4, but even the traffic has been increasing on Maryland Route 260 coming through the town. As far as the lights concerned at the Richfield Station, Harrison Boulevard, I couldn't read the last line on the front page, some typo over that. But is it expectation that the light will be done in 2020, spring 2020?
yeah. Yeah, I've actually got some preliminary layouts they sent me.
How's it
But
look?
yeah. It's preliminary, but
Yeah, what it says, Stuart, is construction in the fall of 2020.
Thank you. Thank you.
I had a hard time too.
Yes. And I'm glad you had that. We had, one of the concerns we had, and one of the things we asked that they would add to that is as you're coming eastbound on 260, providing some type of notice that there's a traffic light at the intersection, whether it's a flashing light or something
Right.
that actually says light ahead. Did they do that in
yes.
the plan?
Yes,
You
there
know
will be
what they're putting in there?
notification. They're putting signage up. They haven't decided if they're going to add something to the blinking light yet, but they're considering that now.
Thank you.
I'll get back to you. Okay, Valerie?
Yeah, you know what I'm going to talk about, Fishing Creek. It says we have expressed to them our thoughts to review the realignment of the existing jetties. And I'm really happy to hear that. I still think that simply raising the height of the current jetties and the configuration that they have currently is not adequate. And I think that it ought to be re-engineered. And, I live with the water view. And I personally, I just see the water and how it comes in from a nor'easter. So I think that as much as it was suggested at last town council meeting that it's the south jetty, I believe the north jetty is just as problematic from what you can see with the waves crashing over. And again, if you look at the way the configuration is now, it goes at an angle into the beach at Windward Key, and I think we need to really insist with as much as practical. And I understand, I also think that, any surveys that can occur, the more often every month I'll ask for a survey because the depth is filling in quickly and that affects our commercial fishermen.
Right.
And so I think that's really problematic. And so I just wanted to, once again, over and over and over, stress my interest in this. And with the fire, nothing happened in the dredge spoil site area, right?
No.
I mean, it wasn't close enough to really do
They
anything to
parked some
that.
equipment in there, but
Right.
no.
So you understand my concern. I don't want, like 6 months from now, them to come back and just say, we're going to raise it a feet at $1,000 per foot. And the same configuration without having real strong due diligence on this, because it needs to be altered. The flow needs to be altered.
So I've expressed all that to them.
Awesome.
Okay.
Keep doing
They were
it.
here today, just to let you know, they were here today, doing some preliminary research on just that matter. I can't say that they're not gonna go whatever route they're gonna go, it's federal money, you know, I mean, but we will continue to insist that they, look at it and tell us if it's a good idea, bad idea, and why, one way
Well-
or the other. I mean, I don't know how they're gonna spend the money, because they haven't said.
I know it's federal money, but,
We
I
can
mean-
insist all we can. I hear
then
you.
they're not expecting any local contribution whatsoever from the town of Chesapeake Beach in any manner, right? So
Not for
it would
this,
be
no.
totally federally funded.
Correct,
And so it's totally their decision.
yes.
Keep on them. I mean,
I
I'm-
am. I'm
it
not
kinda,
saying
you know,
that.
I'm
They're
kinda
here today,
speechless,
just for
but
the
yeah,
very, I mean,
please.
I don't think they would have thought twice about doing anything other than just sending a contractor out there and saying, hey,
You're gonna
whatever.
raise it 2 feet on
Whatever.
the
Yeah,
current
I
existing.
honestly believe that, so. But, they haven't made any decisions, they haven't moved forward with anything. I think, what I understand today was like and they will be doing a new survey. The last survey they did was last fall.
And these are the folks, as a follow-up, that they fully understand how much the feds have put in, how much
Oh,
the
yeah.
state has put in,
Oh,
how much the town,
absolutely.
and we're continually spending money to keep it open. I mean,
Well, in their minds,
I
if
just
they're
wanna
doing
make-
it right or wrong, we're working on it. But in their minds, the first step is that the jetties aren't working the way they should, and by just continuing to dredge isn't fixing the problem.
my point,
Right.
I couldn't agree more.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing, and I don't think they disagree. The thing is to get them moved in the direction to say, well, if we're gonna do it, let's spend the money wisely and do it once instead of just raising or just, going at it blindly.
Thank you.
So,
And,
we're working that.
the most as we get our engineering report, a really good update on that and where it's progressing and any
Yeah, as
support,
soon as I hear from.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Will do.
Yeah, you had a comment, Greg?
Yes, thank you. A comment regarding the usability, longevity issues associated with a floating pier. I just wanted to comment that through our discussions with our colleagues at North Beach regarding Trolley 4.0, it looks like a water taxi of some sorts kind of in the front of that now. And that's something that we're going to start talking about a little bit as far as it applies to the floating piers. Just something to keep in mind. We're going to need like a port for that. We're going to need a place for that to go to.
So it's a permanent structure. I don't know if you don't see a lot of them around here, but they work better in areas where you don't have a lot of wave action, tidal, it's just more where the water just kind of goes up and down. So this is just for the small finger side pier that goes out next to the ramp, one ramp, okay? So it's not a big deal. If you're, I don't know, if you go up to Baltimore Harbor, you see a lot of the floating piers because they don't have that, like, you wouldn't want to put one out on the bay. It's tough because they get wobbly, but I don't think this would be something that where you'd have larger boats using. It'd be small boats.
Yeah, as far as a model for water taxis, just talk right now.
Right,
And I would see our end hub not being a rod and reel necessarily, but being Fishing Creek,
Sure.
someplace there. So
got
just something.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just
Okay.
it's just talk, and there's no timeline set or anything. But it's an interesting discussion. Regarding the Richfield Station traffic light, I know a month ago you had just received draft plans. I suppose they were draft. Is there any intention to share those with
Sure.
council?
Yeah, I can send them out.
What about the HOA there? Is there any need to just say, hey, come in and look at this? This is what we're planning on doing.
Sure.
Just out of kind of respect for the HOA there. Regarding Crestview Lane and finishing out the construction there, really, this applies to anything here in the town. I know the county is responsible for grading inspections, among other critical inspections. In my experience over the years, is they've dropped the ball a little bit here and there. Out of respect to the county, I mean, there's smart folks that work there, but there's something that's dysfunctional there with the relationship, and we've known about it for quite a while, and it's something, at some point, the town needs to look into that. I know you're aware of several issues that they have, but the county's posture has typically been hands-off with the town, with the municipalities. However, we're still dependent on them for some critical inspections, and it's maybe the town want to consider taking over all of the inspections and charging the cost of those to the developers.
Some of
just to
some
get
of that's
the
MDE too, just so you.
well, the state, we can't
right.
trump that, of course, but
Right.
just trying to plug holes where the county seems to leak water with this relationship. It's just for the betterment of everybody, including the folks at the county. Because who's responsible to ensure that the county's doing what they need to do and doing it correctly? Not us. So if they create a problem and they approve something and it's illegal, it becomes our problem. So those are my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
One last one. Just for the sake of my colleagues, on the last item on the water sewer manual, we believe that we're in the home stretch on this with the group that's been working on this for, what, a year and a half now? So hopefully, the full council is going to be seeing an updated manual soon. So get ready.
Very good, and thank you. Water Park report. The council has read Maryland's report. Do we have any questions at this time? If none, thank you. Water Reclamation Treatment Plant report. We've read John's report. Thank you, John. Town Treasurer's report. I know we've got we're going to dig into some budget stuff real soon.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry, I did have one question for John on the
Shoot.
reclamation plant.
Shoot.
John, the item on Sunday evening, April 7th, on the fiber optic cable, was that part of the recent construction?
Yes, it was.
And it failed?
Well, we discovered, we thought we had a fiber ring, but what they installed was actually the star. It's a daisy chain star, where it was, and we had the Paxel unit off due to the flood. So one part was already offline, and somehow we lost two switches at the same time to actually throw the whole ring out.
But the underlying question is, who's paying for this?
Out of my budget.
There's no warranty on any of this stuff that we can go back at them?
No, this is beyond the warranty part of the job.
Okay. Thank you.
A better switch in, or I don't know what the switch.
I put a
Upgraded switch.
Ventron, fiber Ethernet switch in on one of them that actually burnt up. And then the other one, we were able to salvage that. So, and then, once I got it running to get everything back on, I replaced it with another.
So do you know what caused it? Was it because the switch wasn't able to handle the capacity, or we don't know?
I had a couple people come down, Light Technologies, that do fiber work, and they went through my whole sequence and my whole cable, and they just said it was just a kind of fluke where two switches at one time were burned up.
Thank you, sir. Town Treasurer's report. The council's read the report. Do we have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just, once again, thank you for looking into what our reserves ought to be and the percentage thereof, to see what is a best practice. I appreciate you looking into that, to ensure that our rainy day fund is adequately funded. So thank you.
Welcome.
Next, we have the town administrator's report, but before I give that, I have something very important for the council to know as it relates. It's Holly's birthday.
To you, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Holly.
Happy birthday to you.
Cha-cha-cha.
Yeah, you know, and the word on the streets is she's old enough to drink, so there's plenty of bartenders I can introduce you to at some point in time. Yeah, you guys went to school together, right? Yeah. Okay, is there any highlights of the town administrator report that you'd
I think
care
I'll
to share?
touch on the Callum's Field damage, just because Councilman Morris had requested, and Jay can fill in anything that I've missed. But basically, we put in an insurance claim for damage to the field and the tot lot area, so both are closed currently. The plan is to reopen Callum's Field this weekend. We actually called out, Jay had ServPro on site, so there was parts of fiber of material from the burning buildings that was in the field area, as well as the playground mulch area, which is having to be removed and replaced. So that is the current status. It was approximately $12,000, of which we are responsible for a $1,000 deductible.
There's one thing I learned, the fire is an act of God, so the town is paying for our share of it. This initial phase is the cleanup, if you will, getting the ball field back open, get rid of all that contaminated material, the ash, the soot, fixing the ruts from the fire department. That's where we're at. Then we're going to go into lost things such as trees, fences, damaged bleachers, some other items. So we're doing the cleanup. We've met with our insurer, get this stuff open what we can, and then we're going to assess some other damaged items when they finish the cleanup at actually the courtyards. So there's more to come, if you will.
Thank you.
I have a question.
I'll go with Derek and work. Thank you.
On the second page, you talked about the circuit rider program for the grant writer. Could you just explain like what's transpired there?
Sure. So we applied to partner with the town of North Beach in hopes of being able to receive some funding for a grant writer. However, we did hear back from them that we are over the population limit and do not qualify. So we wouldn't qualify for any funding.
We as in two towns together or individually?
Just Chesapeake Beach doesn't
Individually?
qualify to partner with
Okay.
another municipality for that.
Okay. And is there an opportunity for just our town to pursue something like that? Not at all?
No, unfortunately, because our population's
Yeah.
too high.
Okay.
You had a question?
Yeah, well, that was
Did, huh?
what I was interested in, but I have a second one, and that is, I'm not quite sure where to throw this out, whether engineering or if it's,
Shoot.
but anyway, the traffic on C Street is again getting a little fast, and I've had several people mention, and I've seen a car probably doing 40, 45. C Street between Mears and 17th. I don't know if it's because spring's coming or because folks are looking for parking or what. But I don't know if we could put another the speed.
Well,
machine out
that's
there,
an
or-
issue I like to bring up to the lieutenant, and I've heard the same as well. That, you know, some of it is employees that work at the resort, scooting back and forth to work. Everybody knows about running 5 minutes late, so we all get that. But unfortunately, when you're running 5 minutes late, zooming down a residential street like that, it's not the same as speeding on the highway. So I've heard some of that as well. So I think you'd be the person we want to speak to about that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Just three things real quick. Number one, had the opportunity to do the boardwalk yesterday on B Street, and it looks great. So that was nice to see that all taken care of. Something just came up to me, and it's just a thought, okay, guys? And it's this. I think there's a lot of lessons learned from this fire that just happened from a municipal perspective. Whether it be what Jay mentioned with SCADA, and it just came to me, so it's just a thought, whether it's SCADA or the piece of equipment that Mayor Mahoney mentioned. And so this is my thought, is a lessons learned, and that might be something that we can give back to like the MML next year. If there's a session or something, it's obviously too late this year, but next year we can say this is what some of the lessons that we learned from having a tragic fire that really helped us. And I'm not sure if there's like a safety or public works sort of session, but if there is one, I think it'd be most appropriate, and I think it'd be great if like Holly and Jay could speak at that, or maybe have a session. And I know it needs to be developed. It just came to my mind.
That's,
But whatever those lessons are, Pat, your
Yeah,
experience
that's a
with,
good idea.
with all the fire inspectors or
Mhm.
whatever those lessons are.
that's a good
I think
idea.
It'd be great. And finally, a few months ago, Holly had an opportunity, we approved some money so Holly could go to a program. And I had warned her that I was going to ask her because she just finished. It's kind of exciting. And so, Holly, if you'd like to speak a few words, I know it's in your report, I read it, but still, if you'd like to explain about your experience, I think it's worthwhile.
So on March 24th, I attended a graduate executive certificate program in Cambridge, Massachusetts, that focused on driving government performance. So it was really a deep dive into establishing performance measurements for public administration. So it was approximately 40 individuals in the program, from mayors to city attorneys, to city managers, deputy city managers. There were some federal employees there as well. So it was a nice group of individuals that we worked through case studies throughout the whole week, broke into groups, and kind of analyzed situations. Upon immediately returning to town, we did have the tragic fires, and it did bring back some of the lessons that we had learned that week in terms of the real performance was finding housing for individuals and working with the county as a partner in doing that. So that was an immediate use of what was learned, and so it's very much appreciated.
So as a follow-up, so let me get this straight. You were sent for some training, came back, and immediately was able to use that.
Put into action.
That's amazing. And how is the housing situation for those individuals?
All of the individuals have been offered housing, so each of them have an option. Some is outside of this area, which is not as desirable. Most all residents want to stay in Chesapeake Beach, so we're still working through that. The housing community of Fishing Creek was able to provide several units, so that made it a little easier for those residents. Several also found housing on their own in Chesapeake Beach. And then we do have a few that are in the Prince Frederick area. But Calvert County Schools has done a fantastic job in terms of making sure that they provide transportation to pick up any child that's not here currently, that's been displaced, so that they can make it to their home school. So all in all, I think with the Department of Social Services, we're working to get the funding in the family's hands to serve the needs that they have, whether it's the first month's rent, security deposit, beds, bedding, all of that. Department of Social Services is meeting those needs through the funding that very generous donors have provided.
Yes, Mr. Cumbo.
Very briefly, often emergency services after an event like this would do something called an after-action type meeting. And I thought it might be reasonable to consider, as the council, to have like a work session where we could sit down and specifically talk about things that occurred that we could look at in depth, and then sort of accumulate that in terms of what we can do either better or things that we need to do in the event that we have a similar situation like that. So we have maybe some additional plans in place from things that we've learned that worked out well, and some mistakes that we may have made. May be a good idea.
That is a good idea, and we are actually, working with North Beach to be able to come up with some lessons learned that we can share with each council.
And also, I noticed that these buildings were built under old building codes because they're so old. I remember walking those buildings some time ago, but I don't know what the fire alarm system is like. I don't know if there's smoke detectors required now within those residences or even in the hallway based on how those homes are built. But again, maybe something we can look at to see whether or not, even if it's a matter of putting smoke detectors in the hallway, something we might be able to contribute. It's not that expensive to do. But again, maybe we can require it now that homes of that type of structure should have some type of smoke detector along with the fire alarm in the building. But again, through that work session, things we can look at, they may save a life in the future.
One thing to add to that, though, that the report from the fire marshal, state fire marshal, is not in yet, but the preliminary indications are that the fire started underneath the units. They were sprinklered, so there was basically a fully engulfed structure before our units even arrived on the scene.
Thank you. Mayor's report. I have a couple of things. I had the pleasure of joining Mayor Benton last Tuesday down in Prince Frederick, and the Calvert Board of Commissioners gave preliminary approval to continuing to grant each town the tax differential that we receive annually. So that was a successful day. Secondly, always good news, you know, in a few minutes, this council is going to have the opportunity to vote to approve a tax cut, which would be the second tax cut in 2 years that we would have gone. That's number two. But number three, I know he don't want to hear it. You know, you have, silent heroes and, those tall, dark, handsome guys, the John Wayne types and all that kind of stuff. But we, and I've shared this with a few people, we actually have a hero in this room. That would be Jay Berry. I've seen the, pictures and the video and all of that, first stop becomes, assisting North Beach, Fire Department and realizing that it was a Mayday situation. And a Mayday was called, and we were able to get a firefighter out of the building and down that ladder in time. And then to follow that, okay, we had, even when I was over there, we had, numerous volunteer fire people from different, areas, and we had a lot. And there was a group of, young men who were standing next to the building. There was about 7 of them. Were standing next to the building that was about to fall and collapse. And as the time video showed, 2 minutes before that building collapsed, R.J. Berry got those 7 young men out of the way, and they're safe. So that's our hero. And Jay's nothing like me, because if that was me, I'd have had that over Facebook within like 5 minutes. But like I told Jay, I said, God put you there for a reason, and your mom and dad raised you right to go in and do the right thing. So it is really a wonderful world, and I'm honored to work with Jay. I truly am.
Well, I wanted to say one thing. First of all, I told the mayor not to mention that. But, having some insight being there and been under every one of those units from water main breaks in the past, and seeing what happened at the time, and I call them kids because a lot of them are volunteers and they're from different areas. They may have never been to that structure. Knowing Orville with a personal relationship, town resident, and being able to basically yell at them because I have a relationship with them. If it was another fire department, another county, I'm not going to speak out. So all those things came together. I do believe, I'm not a hero because I'm sitting there watching these guys put a ladder up, go into a building that's listing on fire, going in. So I'm sitting back going, okay, that's a bad move. We need to get them out. But I'm not going in that building. So I'd like to say those guys are the heroes. I got some insight that day and a new respect for some people that kind of knew they can see it. I'm looking back at the whole picture, so I could see the building listing. I know I've been under it. I know what's going to happen in a minute because it's already there and it's only held up on the ends now. But those guys are putting a ladder up on a building where fire's coming out the top and they're crawling under the bottom. So I say they're heroes, and I was just able to be at the right place at the right time.
And thank God you were.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, indeedy. Okay. Resolutions and ordinances. Vote on ordinance O-19-6, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach adopting the annual budget of the general fund of the town of Chesapeake Beach for the fiscal year July 1, 19 to June 30 of 20, and setting municipal tax rates. After we get a motion and a second, I expect an amendment from a member of council to correct the typo in Exhibit A. So is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
The amendments.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, make a motion to amend Exhibit A of the ordinance to correct the property tax rate listed at .3392 to correct it to list .3393.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And the ayes have it. So now we're back to the amended ordinance. There's a motion and there's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it, and this council has cut the tax rate 2 years in a row, and I personally applaud these six, I really do. And the treasurer. Yeah, that guy too, yeah. Okay, thank you. Vote on the ordinance O-19-7, an ordinance to the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach adopting the annual budget for the mitigation fund of the Town of Chesapeake Beach for the fiscal year July 1 of 19 to June 30 of 2020.
Move to approve.
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Vote on ordinance O-19-8, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach adopting the annual budget for the Water Reclamation Treatment Plant Fund of the Town of Chesapeake Beach for the fiscal year July 1, 2019 to June 30 of 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Next, vote on Charter Amendment Resolution CAR 19-1, a resolution of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach, Maryland, amending Section C 723, Purchasing and Contract of the Charter of Chesapeake Beach to increase the threshold for the requirement of approval of a contract by the Town Council from $5,000 to $10,000. Like the other ordinance, after a motion and a second, I do expect a amendment. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Any amendments, Keith?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for an amendment on section C-723A for the second sentence and third sentences to read, let me get it so I can read it, $10,000, 10,000 or less may be made on the sole authority of the mayor. The treasurer shall notify town council in writing of all expenditures greater than 5,000 and up to $10,000, no later than 30 days after the cost is incurred.
Is there a second to the?
Second.
Oh. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'm looking at you, right.
Although I understand the nature of this amendment, and I'll be voting in favor for it, overall, I disagree with the nature of this ordinance, or this charter amendment. And so since I'll be voting for this amendment, I'll vote now, but when the time comes, prior to the vote, I'd like to have a time for comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? So, thank you.
Mr. Cumbo. Right, the actual, yeah. Oh, sure, yes, we will. Okay, we have on the amendment, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Now we're back to the amended CAR. We have a second. So, Madam Vice President, would you like to start off with discussion on the amended resolution?
Yes, thank you very much. The reason I voted for the amendment is because although I'm going to be voting no on this resolution, I believe that at least the amendment does help it a bit if it should pass. Although I appreciate the transparency of this current administration and the current town council, in fact, I can see where future ones might not be so transparent, if you will. Also, I see having a $5,000 limit as being one of the many tools that we have as a town council to keep our hand on the pulse of the current day-to-day operations within the town. And I, having served for 16 years, and especially with this town council, we have not had, it's not like we've had emergency meetings to appropriate emergency funds between $5,000 and $10,000. And I can't imagine, I can't remember the last time we were called in to do an amount for that much. And if it's an emergency that we're worried about, and if that's one of the reasons to make this more efficient, then is that part of the charter that we ought to be addressing, not the amount of money. And so I personally, I'm going to be voting against this. I can understand why the administration would want more flexibility. I do understand that. But I don't think that having it at 5,000 has been a burden. If it had been a burden, we would have been contacted more often for emergency meetings to pass that. I do think that having it at 5,000 and above like I said, allows us as a town council to have our finger on the day-to-day operations more so in this. It also forces us to sort of be involved even more. And so, like I said, if I'm going to be voting against this, I voted for the amendment because it's better with the amendment than without. But I would encourage my town council to consider not voting for this because I don't see the problem. And I think charter amendments are extremely serious and they ought to be taken with due diligence. And although I believe this has been taken with due diligence, I simply don't believe it is needed. And I think the transparency of this council has been phenomenal. So it's no reflection whatsoever. Thank you.
Mr. Cumbo.
Very brief, Mr. Mayor. I was initially in favor of it. I'm not necessarily opposing it, but after speaking with some of the colleagues, I've have some curiosity. I believe back in 2016, I believe you initiated a resolution then to lower the $5,000 threshold down to $3,000, and I think Valerie had supported that. But I think the majority of the council voted against it and wished to keep it at $5,000. So having wanted to bring it down to $3,000, why now do we want to go to $10,000? Now that you're, of course, you're mayor
If that's
now,
a
so
question,
you're-
I'll answer that by saying staff, in a discussion with staff, they, basically, Jay and John, urged us to go up, not down. And as a councilman at that time, I heeded their advice and just, they were the experts, not me. So that was a few years ago, but that's the answer. Any other council questions? If not,
I'll say something.
yes, sir.
So when we discussed this in the work session, we also discussed 15,000, which I was very opposed to, and I remain so today. But I think there's something that we need to keep in mind. While I very much appreciate your point, and I think it's valid, especially for the future, based on the past. In the future, that's a very good point. But we also, we just did, we passed 3 budgets. And those budgets allocate money to our directors, and we give them our trust and the responsibility to spend their budgets within their means. And so maybe it's a good thing we haven't had emergency sessions to allocate more money. That's a great thing to have. However, we know from recent events emergencies happen. And I think we need to trust who we hire. And we put people in supervisory and director positions for a reason, and we trust them to use their budget accordingly. If they use their budget, they have to come to us anyway. And plus with the amendment that was done, we will get prompt notice of any expenditures in that way. So I'm in favor of this still, and I had some concerns raising it even higher, but I'm in favor of it because, I think more than anything else, we need to give our staff the tools to do their job appropriately. And if that means, raising this from 5,000 to 10,000 to give them the tools, maybe they never need it, that's great. But if they do, we want to give them the tools to do that. So I'm going to support this.
Thank you, sir.
Just make clarification. We're not giving staff the authority to make the expenditures. This is solely for the mayor.
Right.
Well, that's
Right.
correct,
Right.
but the mayor will make that, make that decision based on the input from
Right.
his staff and his directors specifically. So that's that. Thank you for the clarification, but that was my point.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. 5-1. Thank you. Introduce ordinance O-19-9, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach, Maryland, adopting the annual budget for the Water Park Fund of the Town of Chesapeake Beach for the fiscal year July 1, 19 to June 30 of 2020. Let's set how many public hearings do we have here for these? 3. Let's set the public hearing for 6:50 on, what is that, May the 16th? 16th, I think. I'm guessing. I'm probably right. Never ask a retired guy what the date is, so I'm not going to look at Stuart or Larry. That's how it rolls, right? 16th, 6:50, okay. Introduce ordinance O-19-10, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach adopting the annual budget of the utility fund of the Town of Chesapeake Beach for the fiscal year July 1 of 19 to June 30 of of 2020, setting rates, charges, and fees related to water and sewer services by the town. We'll set the public hearing for 6:55. Finally,
Quick question. I can't find
the ordinance.
19-10 in my packet. Does anyone else have it?
Don't know. We can certainly get you one.
Yeah, I have it. Okay, I'll get a copy from you.
All righty. Sure. Introduce ordinance O-19-11, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach, repealing Chapter 185, minimum livability, and enacting Chapter 162, Housing Code, to establish property maintenance standards for properties in the town and establishing a rental licensing programming incorporating regular inspections. I'll set the public hearing for 6:58 on the 16th. Thank you. Next, reports, planning and zoning. We have no report. We know that. Sure, which do you want to comment on, sir? The planning and zoning. Okay, when sure, sure. And thank you. Planning and zoning. There was a meeting on April the 10th. That's really all I have. Greg, you have a comment?
Yeah, just for the record, I did attend that meeting. It was a great meeting. It was one of the best meetings I attended. I ran really late, too. It was one of the best meetings that I had attended regarding progress towards a comprehensive plan. And I wanted to say that I know that there were some staff and their spouses that were there. But other than that and myself, there wasn't anybody there from the public. But I thought it was a great meeting. They're making headway and they've got good direction. So
Very good. Thank you, sir. Board of Appeals, there was no hearing. Seebach, is Mr. Bacon still with us? Thank you, sir. Really?
The ospreys have, for the last 2 years, invaded the oyster aquarium to build a nest on top of it. Okay? And some of our Seabox volunteers have been taking that nest down on a regular basis. The last time we took it down, there were 5 armloads of sticks and moss that had set on the top of the oyster aquarium. So we decided that there has to be some way to get the oysters away, or get the ospreys away from there. Because we have a really great platform up on the backside of the trail, which nobody's been using for the last 5 years. So after we painted and stained the oyster aquarium, which was in dire need of that, we decided that the best way to do that was to make it patriotic. And if you go down the trail today, you'll see a great huge flag flying on top of the oyster aquarium, and that has scared the ospreys away. We hope that's permanent. The mural from the community mural was mounted behind the dais here for the 125th anniversary. It looked really great. And we thank all the students from Beach who painted that. Finally, a railing section of the old 261 bridge has found a home. It's about 70 feet that way between the parking lot and Traders. It looks very nice. And we're going to put a decorative plaque next to it, and then we're going to put a large sign similar to all the signs that are on the trail, up on the trail facing the bridges. And this will be a sign that understands all the types of bridges that have been used since pre-colonial times across Fishing Creek. And we're working hard at getting that ready to go by the fall. Interestingly enough, I was told today, and I found out today, that the State Highway Department has put a sign up on the bump out on the east side of the new bridge. And that sign depicts the bridge that they just replaced. And it looks pretty nice up there. So if you're walking up across the bridge, you can take a look at it. If you're driving, don't take a look at it because you'll probably hit somebody, you know, anyway. Lastly, we're participating in, of all things, the Mason-Dixon Outdoor Writers Association Conference, which is going to be held here in Chesapeake Beach on the weekend of April 26th. Our presentation will focus on the oysters and the railway trail. There's also going to be a presentation given by Ken Rasmussen about the Brownies Beach area. This is being done by, as a result of Hillary Daly's tourism specialist at the county economic department, and we're expecting will increase the visibility of Chesapeake Beach, hopefully with these writers talking about how great we are. So we're going to puff up our chest and say how great we are. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Economic development, Larry?
I'll touch on some highlights of the report you have in front of you. The 125th anniversary celebration continues. Thank you to everyone who made the celebration a week ago a success. That was the first of our celebrations. The next one will be on June 15th. We have commandeered one of our Moonlight Cruises and renamed it the Steamboat Landing Cruise. It will be narrated by Dr. Ralph Eshelman on the impacts of steamboats on the development across the bay and particularly of our town. And then we will have a special ceremony as part of our third annual Taste the Beaches in September. But wanted to thank Holly and the staff for all the help on that event that we had a week ago here in Town Hall. It was very successful. Stars and Stripes is coming up. Mark your calendars. There's a whole wonderful program of activities that are going to go on that weekend. As I mentioned, our Taste the Beaches planning is underway. I did want to highlight on the continued joint efforts between our town's Economic Development Committee and the North Beach Economic Development Committee. We have two major initiatives underway, what we call the 5G work group and the beach bus, and I'll defer to my colleague, Mr. Morris, for any updates on those two.
Well, it's not a surprise that the trolley 4.0 is not going to go this year. In fact, I've advised the group's decided it's not appropriate time. It's not a good time for the trolley. But out of those discussions, there has been some talk about maybe looking at maybe a water taxi or some alternatives, something to provide a commerce, move people around, something really interesting. And I think people around here would pay for that. And
5G.
Oh, the 5G, yeah. Kind of going back and forth a little bit with that. I think we're back to meeting and putting together an RFP. We were trying to get one of the infrastructure construction companies to come down and talk to us, but we really didn't have any luck, and we were advised by our delegate, Mark Fisher, to continue pursuing an RFP and issuing that to get the attention of the, to bring these companies down here so we can talk to them. And I wanted to mention that concurrently with that effort, but it's a separate effort, and it's something that we've realized the town doesn't have an ordinance regarding small cell aesthetics. I know that some of our colleagues have brought that up in the past, and it is something that we've got to look at. I know that MML has a boilerplate ordinance out there. We do want to follow suit with MML, and I'd like to offer Councilman Cumbo and Councilwoman Bodine, if she was interested, we could put together that ordinance. That's a separate issue than what we're talking about with our 5G group, but it's something that we should put in place. My personal opinion on it is when a rubber hits the road down the road and there's some eminent domain, I think they're going to steamroll over those ordinances anyway. But we want to be one with MML, and I know we don't want to. I think that one of the goals of MML is to have consistency from municipality to municipality and how they're dealing with that. So if you have all the different municipalities with all those different ways of dealing with it, then the utility company that comes in can just say, oh, this is too difficult to navigate, and they're just going to steamroll over it. Well, I still think they're going to do that, but trying to have consistency between the municipalities is a good idea, and that's what I would urge us to do moving forward on that issue.
Thanks, Rick.
I'm just
Got
gonna,
to follow up. I
First,
think.
I'm going to let Larry finish his report.
sorry, I thought he was done.
Just two last things. One is, where we hosting, Mr. Bacon mentioned this, it's the Travel Writers Conference is going to be here Friday, April 26th. Mayor Mahoney has graciously offered to buy dinner for the travel writers that will be hosted at Abner's Crab House. Introduce these folks to some.
To clarify that, Bobby Abner has graciously
Yes.
agreed to go out and catch some
Yes.
crabs and give
Introduce
us
them to crabs,
and
but-
give us his Bobby rate.
And again, it's an opportunity to increase the awareness of our town to travel writers from around the area. The second thing is, as many of you know, I'm a member of the Calvert County Economic Development Advisory Commission, EDAC, and EDAC is going to be hosting what we are beginning to call Walk the Beaches on Friday, June 21st. And what this is an opportunity for the members of the Economic Development Advisory Committee to come to our twin beaches, two towns, and visit a number of businesses in the town and just have a chat with them as to how the county might be able to help increase their success. So again, it's an effort by the county as a whole to reach out to our two towns to help them. Thank you, Mayor.
Good, and I'll leave it with a comment, and it's basically back to Greg's comment as mayor. Yes, if a couple of members of council do wish to, look at the MML ordinance and, come up with some, requirements that we think would be good for, ourselves, I would say thank you and do that and submit what you have in terms of just, the requirements. We have a lawyer to write all the legalese, and submit it to Holly, and then we'll work from that. So thank you, everybody. Please do.
You can enact static guidelines by resolution. You should do that in conjunction with the streets ordinance, but you can do them as two separate pieces, and that gives you a little bit more flexibility about what actually goes in your code and what you're adopting by policy. And it's really important to get those aesthetic guidelines in place as soon as you can, because you're already past the April 15th implementation date from the STC. So, I support your efforts and I urge you to move forward.
La Plata had an emergency session to enact
Yeah,
that.
because in jurisdictions where there were pending applications, and it's going to be a while till you have them, so I think you have some time, but you really should move forward, because in jurisdictions where there were either pending applications or a likelihood that they might get them soon, which is probably more true in La Plata than here, we're going to be lucky when they come here. They needed to get those guidelines, and we had sort of emergency guideline documents on agendas elsewhere as well.
Okay, for comment on the economic development of report, I'll start with Valerie.
In regard for the 5G, so I think, if I understand, you guys are looking at the benefits of it, and I think that's wonderful. These are my.
That's not all.
What else?
We're looking to make sure that it's acceptable as to how they implement that here in our towns.
Right. This is what my concerns are, and they're really two. One is local zoning authority. So I don't want, I want to do whatever we can do as a municipality to ensure that 5G placement is not done on public town property without proper zoning authority, so they ought to have to come to us, so they can't just put their small cell towers where they wish without having, come to the local zoning authority, which is us. So I'm less concerned, but still concerned about the aesthetics of it, because these cell towers, my understanding is they need to be closer. And I believe there was something that happened with the FCC in the past 10 days, and there was a White House briefing. And even in that briefing in the White House, there was talk about wanting to move ahead quickly with 5G so we're economically competitive. I'm paraphrasing. And that kind of like local zoning authority be darned. And I think that's problematic. And so the town of Lusby passed some emergency ordinances regarding this, you know, some aspects of it. And that was just my point. So I sent it to the guys and I'm like, is this something we should be doing to kind of, to move it along in some manner? And as much as I'm concerned about the aesthetics, I'm concerned about anyone coming into the town and putting anything on town property without properly asking. Another thing that came up at that White House meeting specifically was, you know, when we do like the Verizon stuff, you've seen the water towers and you see how we have things on there. I'm not an engineer. I don't know what they're all called, but you know, you see that stuff. Well, we get some sort of compensation as a town for that. We earn revenue. And again, at this meeting, there was talk about controlling the local level of revenue that can be gained from that. And so, I mean, look, I'm not trying to diss 5G in any ways. It's going to come. And I think whatever we can do as a municipality to control it. So those are my concerns. One is, I don't want anyone coming in here and zoning for us, you know, just popping stuff down. Second is the aesthetics. You don't want cell towers that you can see every 5 feet. That'd be ugly. Or, you know, we can address it in some manner. And third, I am concerned about the revenue generation that we have from these contracts because it is one of our revenue sources. And so we have other contracts with other providers, and I would hate to see these other contracts the next time they come up for renegotiation affected by this. So my point is that we need to keep a firm view on this and control our own zoning as much as possible. It's one of the things that we're granted as a municipality. And so those are my concerns and my points.
Thank you. Did you have a comment, sir?
Forgive me, Mayor, over at least the last 2 years, and particularly when this came to the attention of the Maryland Municipal League, I was a member of the legislative committee, and the utility companies initially tried to get this bill passed in Maryland. The Maryland Municipal League was able to kill that bill last year. We knew they were coming back this year with a little more money and more influence. Again, MML, along with MACO, was able to kill it. I think it's been referred to summer conference. So for this year, again, it is dead. But surely they'll be back next year. It's not that the Maryland Municipal League, nor I believe the town, are against 5G. We're very much part of innovation and high speed. We want this. But there are virtually 4 concerns, I would say. One would be the right-of-way issues within the town right-of-way, the aesthetic issues in terms of how they're going to look within our municipalities as well as the county, zoning, if zoning has any influence on that, and specifically licensing and permitting, if they're going to be able to use any of our right-of-ways, that we have some type of license and permit procedure in place. So I've been trying to, at least through our town, as some of the other municipalities, to encourage us to get some type of ordinance or resolution in place to at least put something in writing in terms of how we want to control this. It will put us in a much better position if some type of legislation is passed. You know, whether they can overrule it or not, at least we have something in place, and there have been a number of cities and towns that have done this. Now, the idea of myself and Valerie trying to put together a resolution, I would suggest that this might be done through our attorney, because one, she's very much aware that she's been a part of this, and she knows Lynn Board, who's very much involved in the litigation process. It's a technical document, I believe, that has to be put together. And I would suggest that this would be done through the attorney. We'd be happy to give her any input if she needs any, or take a look at it, you know, if she comes up with a draft. But I think that might be a better way to go, because I think she would know the language and the best way to do that. So,
And it would also be the most expeditious way to go.
expeditious way, I would agree. But I would suggest that we do this relatively sooner than later. Let's get this on the burner again. I've been trying to get this done for the last 2 years, and I think it will, again, benefit the town. So, yeah. And there are already ordinances in place. We can get copies of these from Maryland Municipal League, and we can change those in any way that we feel fit that would make them more applicable to the town of Chesapeake Beach. I thought, yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we have expertise here in that area, and I think that would be the best way to go to get that done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I concur. I say let's do it now.
Yep. Okay. Okey doke.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. MML report.
Okay, April mail report. The Southern Maryland Municipal Association next meeting will be May 8th at 6 o'clock in Indian Head at the Village Green Pavilion. This will be our last meeting before we break for the summer, and we'll reconvene in September. I am happy to say at our last meeting, we'll have Laura Van Eperen. She's the CEO of Van Eperen. Her and her partner are going to be our guest speakers. And actually, we're going to be talking about managing communications in a crisis. So I think it'll be, I asked her to do this as a result of the fire we had back here. I thought it'd be a topic on point. This is what her company does. So I hope it'll be informative. Hope you all can make it. Try to be there if you can. I've been their president this year. Keith has been serving as the vice president, and Sharon has been serving as our secretary. I want to thank you all for your work and assisting with the meetings and the business of the Southern Maryland Municipal Association this year. We'll be electing new officers in May at the May meeting. So it'll be a very important meeting. Try to be there if you can. That's my report.
Thank you, sir. Twin Beach Opioid Abuse Awareness Coalition. Keith?
Thank you, Mayor. So there has been 25 non-fatal heroin opioid overdose incidents in the county so far, and 9 fatal overdose incidents. 7 non-fatal incidents in Chesapeake Beach, North Beach. So we continue, to try to raise awareness about this issue, try to connect people with resources, the people who are in need or their families. And so we had our last meeting on April 9th here at 6 o'clock. I'm just going to give you some of the highlights from it. So we are partnering with St. Anthony's Catholic Church. Looks like we're going to try to do something in June with them, probably after their services, provide information and a brief overview of what we do and what resources there are in the county. That's still under formation there. We're also communicating with the youth troupe of the Twin Beach Players, Sherry Lennon, and they are going to put together a play or a skit to help raise awareness about this issue. We're kind of looking at a timeline of hopefully October, November for them presenting that, and we're going to be looking for a venue in the hopefully the Twin Beach area for doing that. And let's see, so some of the events, I believe these got into our email blasts, but I just want to mention them. The Shatter the Stigma 5K is this Saturday here in Chesapeake Beach.
Expect my wife to be running there.
Oh, all right,
She
great.
said she's not going to walk, she's going to run.
Wonderful. And so that's hosted by the Calvert County Health Department. And there will be a speaker there before the race begins to talk about some of the issues. There will be information at tables there. April 27th is the DEA prescription drug take back. We do have some flyers about how to dispose of your unused medicines appropriately. This is one of the best ways if you can get them to on the 27th to one of the police stations up in Prince Frederick, or the Northeast Community Center, the Southern Community Center, or the Mount Hope Community Center. There'll be officers there. I believe it's from 10 to 2. They'll take those off your hand. There's some, in that email blast, there are some additional instructions on what you should do to help protect your privacy, that kind of thing, when you're dropping those off. But that's much better than pouring them down into the toilet and flushing them, because those chemicals don't get removed, even though we have a state-of-the-art water treatment or water reclamation facility, that most of those will still, go out into the waterway. There's a Let's Talk Mental Health and Your Teen, What's the Connection to Substance Use, happening May 7th at the Harry D. Brown Community Center in Prince Frederick. There's a Tri-County Memory Walk at the Serenity Farms on May 18th. I hear that is a very powerful event. If you get a chance to go to it, I strongly recommend it. I haven't been to it yet. I hope to get to this one. And Calvert Alliance Against Substance Abuse has a new web page up, www.hope4calvert.net. One feature that they've added is a calendar of all upcoming substance abuse awareness events happening in the county. So it's a kind of a one place to go if you find out more about what's happening in the county. And our next meeting is scheduled for August 20th, although we'll probably be having another one before then, which I'll keep you apprised about, just to help plan that with the youth troupe and their play. So I'm sure we're going to have to meet with them. Also in the back, the flyer that I held up, there's more in the back for anybody who's interested in one. We also have Growing Up Drug-Free, A Parent's Guide to Prevention, that's available in the back there as well. Some free information that was sent to us from the Drug Enforcement Agency upon request. So please, I hope that information's helpful. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Keith. Next to Derek, welcome. Yes, sir. Please.
The sheriff's office had, just in the past, I think, 2 months this year, really have started including a map of where incidents are occurring in their weekly report. So yes, they are doing that. You know, I don't know how far the sheriff's office has gone in that direction. I personally, or our group, has not done any of that at this point. But I hear you. I think it's a good idea. I don't.
There are interdiction measures going on. I mean, we do know where it's coming from. And anytime we get a fatal, we seize the cell phone and we're able to track it. We track it. We look at who the suppliers are. And they are going, some prosecutors are going after this as a depraved heart murder. For anybody that can be proved to have sold the fatal dose. So we track a lot of it coming out of Annapolis, Baltimore, and into the county by that way. We've set up stop teams. We work with other jurisdictions to stop them coming in. Our patrol officers, Brian Poundberry, who's one of your beach deputies here, he's actually he made a very significant drug arrest from just a routine traffic stop. He ended up recovering a gun, a stolen vehicle, had 6 or 8 arrests with that, and was able to provide over 35, 40 names to our drug enforcement of low-level dealers that were involved in that ring. So we did a good job with that. It's, as you know from working the job, it's a lot of times it's the same people, the same houses, and things like that. There's certain houses where people do go to shoot, they go to, do the things that they do there. We do find a lot of, we use Narcan on the same people over and over and over again. I don't know if you follow the news and the incident that happened out in Cincinnati, Kentucky area over the weekend, just this past couple of days. That's a big step. They took down 60 people and 53 of them had the authorization to write prescriptions. It affected over 32 million pills on the street. So, that's where it starts a lot of times with unfortunately, some dishonest doctors and things like that. So, I think it's a nationwide problem, not just a Calvert County problem, and it's something that, everybody's working diligently on. I don't know that we'll ever get out in front of it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing up that article, because I think that speaks to the whole idea of this stigma in terms of, it's very easy to point your finger at the people who are addicted and say, hey, you're bad, what's going on, you need to be punished. But then, as you were just saying, there were almost 60 doctors who were caught up in that sting, who were writing these prescriptions to people. And so, it's really a community-wide thing. It's the pharmacies, doctors, and the people. We're all involved, so it's not just the end user that we need
And it
to be
seems to
worried
be a
about.
trend also to get away from punishing the user to getting him into programs as versus putting him in jail.
Yes, yeah, medication-assisted treatment, it's been shown to be effective. Hopefully, the hospital has been looking into implementing that in their emergency room. I think right now they have a program with the Calvert County Health Department that if somebody comes in who is suffering from withdrawal, they will contact the Calvert County Health Department and try to get them into a program, but it would be great if they would just go ahead and give them a prescription of something like Suboxone or Subutex that would take away the cravings and the withdrawal. And there have been some studies that have shown that they get better results in terms of getting those people into treatment if they can get them onto some of these medicines right away, because they kind of see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel when those cravings are removed for a bit. Because otherwise, if you just kind of send them away from the emergency room, they're going to go find, something to take away the pain and the cravings.
Thank you. Derek?
All right, the Walkable Community Advisory Group met on Monday of this week, and we had a productive meeting. We had some visitors from Richfield Station who joined us, which was nice. We don't normally get members of the public who join us, but we did that night. They'd indicated they read the article in the newsletter and had some questions on a few of our proposals from that. So we had a really good discussion with them, very productive, as well as we received feedback from the Bayfront Park Committee, very thoughtful and detailed feedback from them from the previous month where we briefed the other committees. Also, we've had some other discussions with other residents around town, so the word is getting out. The presentation's on the website and in the email blast, so we appreciate everyone's feedback on that. So the bulk of our meeting and the goal of the meeting was to prioritize our proposals based on that feedback and the input of the members, because as you know, Holly and Paul are working on an RFP for us to hire a planning firm to develop some of these proposals. So we spent the majority of our meeting prioritizing our series of proposals to move towards that effort. Fortunately, I had to leave the meeting at about that time, so I left the bulk of the work to the committee. I came back about 45 minutes later, and not surprisingly, they were done. Very efficient with me not there, so I appreciate that, Amanda, and all our group. They did a great job, because there was a lot of proposals to go through, and they really prioritized which ones go together and how one works
Eric,
well
do you
with
see that in your
others.
day job too?
Pardon that?
Do you see that in your day job too?
I wish I did, actually.
Yeah.
That would make me happy, but no, unfortunately, it's the other way around. But we great job by them. We're going to use that information to help with the RFP. And again, I want to thank Holly and Paul on the efforts for that. Expect in an upcoming work session to review the applicants for that, with the expectation that we will have it on the business agenda for the June meeting to hire that firm, or perhaps firms. And lastly, I wanted to reach out to both Larry and Greg. You mentioned the EDAC visit to town, and actually our committee has really wanted to spend some time with your committee, frankly, because a number of the things that we've been talking about really have an impact on economic development. So I think with your upcoming visit with the EDAC folks, I'd really like to get our groups together to have a discussion before that meeting, because I think there might be some opportunity that maybe some of our members might want to join you in that effort, because many of the things that we're talking about are very, very directly linked with the county. So we really need county support, which I think we have a good relationship there, but we're going to need that moving forward, for some of the things that we want to do. And so I think maybe we can help provide a perspective, on the economic development side, that, some of the other things that we're doing to collaborate and work together. So I'll talk with you guys offline about that, but I'd like to do that. And lastly, I took a task today to try to recruit Layla, our essay winner, to join our group. So it was very, we we attend the planning and zoning meetings. You know, we've heard a lot of discussion, and from the public on, safe pedestrian access, within our town. Hearing it from an elementary school girl, that was just fabulous. So it really, just reinforces, the work that we've done for the last year to try to incorporate this vision and for others to, to realize from themselves, from their perspective, how important that is as well. It was nice to hear that. So appreciate all the feedback that we're getting. Got a great group. We're getting great comments, both supportive and constructive. So again, appreciate that and look forward to keep moving forward.
Comment, Greg?
Yeah.
Thank you, Derek. Comment, Greg?
Yeah, Derek, is it possible for you to share with us, not tonight, but in a private email or something, the order of precedence that y'all discussed regarding your projects? I'd be interested.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, no unfinished business. New business, number one, we've got five. The first four, the council did work in a work session. Town council to consider purchasing a walk-in freezer for the water park from Supplies on the Fly in the amount of $13,671.23. Award a contract to Already Finished Concrete in the amount of $4,999 for the concrete slab, and a contract to Wires Inc. in the amount of $3,872 for electrical hookup, for a total project cost of $22,542.23. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. The town council to consider a purchase from Welltech, one of them, in the amount of $15,854.80 for 2 flow meters for the Chesapeake Village Water Tower and Richfield Station Water Tower, and for the wiring of an existing flow meter at Mears Avenue into the SCADA mission statement. A
Move
motion
to
to
approve.
approve. I heard a motion to approve from Valerie. Did I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Town council to consider purchasing from Welltech, Inc. in the amount of $6,204.40, and from Independent Automated Consulting in the amount of $6,500 for the upgrade to the WRTP existing mission SCADA system alarms for a total project cost of $12,704.40.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Town council to consider awarding a contract to Windmill Farms in the amount of $12,971.50 for cleanup and mitigation to Kellum's Field and the Tot Lot. The insurance carrier Legit will pay Windmill Farms directly for all costs with the exception of a $1,000 deductible.
Motion to approve.
Second.
With, unfavorably
Comment, sir?
with comment, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. $13,000 for the cleanup, what's included? And I guess we did talk about that earlier tonight.
Right.
It seems like a lot of money, but I guess it's not. Was there a scope of work that was put together? Did we just approach Windmill about it, or?
I think Holly's prepared to answer your question.
So there is a scope of work. Council received the estimate outlining that scope of work. But basically, it's removing all of the material that's damaged over at the Tot Lot is the significant portion of it. And Jay, did you want to add anything to that?
Just a couple gates were damaged. Had to clean the silt and stuff off of the backstop for the field. Field got flooded. There's other things, and ruts from the fire trucks. Storm drain tops, some 6x6s got run over. But we had a meeting before all this was put together with Legit, our insurer, derived this list, made an agreement, and that's where we're at.
So we're going to put out the money and get all but $1,000 back.
They'll pay the contractor directly.
Okay, that's great. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Next, town council to consider approving a change order to the council, approved agreement with K&H Electric in the amount of $6,030 to cover the cost to install 2 stainless steel main breaker enclosures and stainless steel trowel at the water park. Did you explain this to the council in advance?
I provided a memo to council.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved. Second with discussion.
Yes, sir.
The change order amount is to raise the contract amount to K&H Electric to the full amount of the quote they had earlier in the year for the stainless steel boxes. They had provided, if everybody recalls, they had two separate estimates. One was for the stainless steel, one was for what was in there already. The county, in their infinite wisdom, has come down here in their electrical inspections and said that, oh, you got to have stainless steel boxes in there, even though they haven't had them in there for 20 years. I support the, I support doing this, and then we got to do it. I did speak with Rick at K&H just to get a little background in it, and it's something the county is requiring us to do. It is the best way to go. Yeah, I just wanted to give a little background in that. I support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The comment?
Sure.
First question is, are these the boxes in the main, the two boxes on the wall, electrical boxes there, or are these the ones that are in the closet? Which,
So this is in the pump room.
Pump room.
On the right, electric room before the chemical room. Main feed, the 480 that steps
Right.
down on the left when you go in.
Well, I'm glad we're getting this done because for years we've been trying to get those boxes converted. We've tried spraying them with various different things to try to slow down the chemical erosion because of the chlorine and so forth in that room. So one, I support, glad seeing it being done. But my question is, I know we put some fans in that room and take some other action to try to help move the air and get that chlorine air out of there. Is that working now? I mean, are we seeing improvement, or do we need to do more other than just reporting, fixing the boxes to help circulate that air out?
All the above. But basically, when we first built the park, was before I worked here, but we disinfected with CO2. It wasn't hypochloric sodium, so it was different code, different things. Now, county code, when you enter that pump room, considered hazardous.
Right.
So even though it's ventilated, it's protected, chlorine gas is going to get to it.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, is code or no code, it might not be the same players sitting here in 20 years, but someone's going to be glad that we put in a stainless steel cabinet, because if we'd have done it from the get-go, we would be here.
True.
So
But-
I think it's the right thing to do either way.
Again, on board, but I know
Sure.
that one of the main problems is that we didn't have proper air circulation in that room.
So-
Bad air out, good air in, and if we
So
didn't
that's
do that,
been,
the
that's
chlorine-
been mitigated, put in, approved by the state, whole induction negative draw on the chemical room. So all that's led to less corrosion. I know you're very detailed and seen it all, so that part has been done and still working.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Thank you. At this point in time, is there anybody that has any public comment? Mr. Reverend Dunn, please.
Real quickly, Mayor, council members, I currently work at Sneed's Home Center, and I have been meeting with my district manager along with Dave Sneed, the owners, and we're looking to move forward, and they want to extend any kind of donation that they possibly can, and I will email you, Holly, some information as well. But as far as when the rebuilding stages take place, they want to contribute as much as possible to the community, as much as possible as they can.
Thank you, Reverend Dunn. Anybody else in the public have any comment? Sir? Please step up to the microphone, say your name and address, and make your comment.
My name is Robert Elliott. I live at 3900 Chesapeake Beach Road. We had an incident a couple weeks ago on D Street where a little old lady walking a dog tripped on the sidewalk because it was raised, went down on her face. And of course, it had already happened to me 3 days before, and I had my nose cut on the fence. So I want to commend the town for coming down and doing something about the raised sidewalk as a temporary fix, but wanted to find out when they were going to repair permanently. Because in that same block on D Street, when they were doing the remodeling of the Toto house, they brought in a 40-yard dumpster, set it down, and it broke the sidewalk up. And it seems to me that the people that bought that house and are doing that remodeling should be responsible for repairs rather than the town having to put out money for the repairs of that sidewalk. And I don't know where that's.
Jay or Holly, are you aware of the issue?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I think you were there.
Jay, would you
Yeah.
care to speak to the issue?
And this goes into the $5,000 thing. So one of the reasons for the $5,000 threshold is this scope of work is over $5,000. And so we mitigate it with cold patch for now, but to get 3 different contractors to come out and give you 3 different bids for a job that's that size, that's what complicates the $5,000 to $10,000 in my mind. It's not necessarily the emergency all the time, although I understand I'm still waiting on Beltway to get out here to give us the third price to do about a $5,200 job. As soon as we get that, I'm probably going to go with the original guy that we have an experience with, but we still need the third price to do our due diligence.
Well, my concern was the part that was damaged by the contractors.
So I spoke to that homeowner. In his defense, where that sidewalk is about 3 inches thick. The town's going to do from end to end across there, so I'm not going to back him charge that. I'm aware of what happened with the thing. It'd be very hard to prove.
Aware of it too.
He is, and he said it was a contractor, but for 2 blocks of sidewalk doing 170 feet, in my mind, it's not really worth chasing them down, although I feel they're responsible.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to be economically worth it to do all that to have someone pay for 2 blocks. So the plan is, I think you're out there and we walked it, to go
Yeah.
end to end, replace it all. It's kind of all in bad shape, up and down. But I need one more quote, and then we're going to do it.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Jay.
Sure.
Thank you,
I-
Mr. Elliott.
Two more things. They're short. The stop sign at D Street and 27th. 10 years ago, I told them it was the wrong height in compliance to state highway, and they kind of blew me off here. And then I said, we get them running red light, running that stop sign every day, all day long. And the deputy that was the duty deputy at the time jumped up and said he'll take care of it. We counted 68 cars run through that stop sign before they sent a car there. The car pulled up, parked right at the stop sign. One person ran through the stop sign. He pulled him over. We left. He left. And while he was down the street with them, 15 more ran through the stop sign. And we've never seen another car or anything happen since then. We actually did have kid get hit down there, 10 years ago, because somebody ran through the stop sign.
Great. I'll ask the lieutenant if he has a comment on that.
I'm responsible for getting people out there and I'll make sure that they.
Okay.
7th and D.
Yeah.
It's not something we can't.
Yeah, and the stop sign's like right here in your face, and under the guidelines, and I don't recall what they are anymore, it's supposed to have enough height that you can walk underneath of it. Yeah. And the last thing I've got is, in March, I picked this up. And at first I got a shock, and then I found it kind of amusing. And Stu, one of the first things they teach you in the police...
Sir, your comments go to the mayor.
Okay. One of the first things they teach you in the police academy is civil rights law. And I've been through 2 academies, Prince George's and the District of Columbia. And they beat that into us. And then I read here that we're dealing with 275 felonies.
It's not true.
Sir,
I'm only going by this, and you can only...
It's the paper, it's not true.
Yeah,
but I'll be
okay.
more than happy to do this.
I'm sorry, sir.
The comments are going to go from you to me. I am going to rebut for your comment. We're not going to have a free-for-all, that's for certain. So please, sir, your comment, if it's not finished, I'll wait until you finish it.
And I found the whole article kind of amusing, and I'm wondering where this is going.
I will, if you have a seat, I'll comment on that.
Okay.
As I said, I'm not going to turn this meeting, we're here for town business and town business only. What I'll make there is basically, every man, woman in this country has a right to their day in court. That's every colleague of mine, everybody here, and I respect that. And until that happens, this is not town business. No further comment. Council lightning round. I'll begin with Derek.
All right. So earlier, Larry had given thanks to everyone for their help with the 125th anniversary event, but I didn't hear anyone give you thanks for what you've done, so I wanted to do that because that was a large effort, and it was good to see your picture on the front page of the Recorder as well. So thank you for that, on behalf of everyone. And then it was great to have a full house again tonight. We've had a couple full houses in the last few months. Even if it's briefly, it's great to have everyone here. So let's try to keep those events coming, and just hope everyone has a safe and happy Easter.
Couple things. One, I think it's great that I can hear everybody. So we appreciate, that the new system. That's wonderful. Thank you. Also wanted. What's that?
I thought you got hearing aids.
Not yet. And I also wanted to just mention the Bayfront Park cleanup is July 27th, 10 to 1, rain or shine. Hope to see you there. It also coincides with the Bio Blitz that the Green Team is collaborating on with the county, so you can kill two birds with one stone. Not literally, hopefully, at there. But, bring your phones, and you can log on to iNaturalist and document all the plants and animals that you see at the Bayfront Park then. And I also wanted to just give a shout out once again to Ken Rasmussen. He does a talk as part of the Bayfront nature walk and talks that we do, and that was picked up by the travel writers group as well, and so they contacted us, and we put them in touch with him, and he's going to be telling them a little bit about the cliffs that we have here in town, and how they were formed, and the processes that are involved. And so that's just another attraction that the town has to offer people here on the more natural side. So anyway, thanks, and thanks for coming out.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Keith's observation that we do have new sound here in the council chamber. That does make things a lot easier. We also have video in the council chamber with the ability to live stream. We're not doing it right now, but it's interesting. Will we be able to go pull up the videos of the? Yes, great. Everybody have a great end of the August. Thanks.
Happy Easter, everybody.
Just wanted to once again express gratitude to the fire department, Jay, Mayor, colleague, everybody else who pitched in on the tragedy that we had a couple weeks ago. Those things are always hard on a small community, but it also showed our small community atmosphere where everyone came together to help out. So thank you, everyone.
Just very brief, I just wanted to again, Keith, address a little bit of the opioid. I was around in the 90s when there was a real push for, law enforcement to enforce drug laws, and prison was the remedy or disposition. It's certainly been a shift over time because of the amount of incarceration and the amount of people you see in jails, particularly for drugs and narcotics. Now more of a treatment environment as opposed to imprisoning folks for that. So that's good to see. Because one of the concerns, particularly in the black community, but I'm sure in the white community also, is that if a parent finds drugs in the home with their children and report it to the police, it is very likely that the son or daughter could be arrested even still for the possession. And one of the idea of decriminalizing is to put people in a better position to when they find these types of drugs, they can contact local law enforcement and turn these things in without the fear of a child being arrested. So the idea of decriminalization, I think, is a good idea in the treatment program. So I hope that you continue with your program and we see more jurisdictions looking toward treatment as versus criminalization with the drug issue. So,
Thank you, sir. Madam Vice President.
Thank you. Just a few things. First of all, for all of you that were here for the discussion when we were talking about the fire and how Jay used the SCADA system, under new business, that is number 3 that we voted on tonight, is another improvement for that system. And so you can see how we're continually building towards that. And so that's a wonderful purchase for that system. Next, I'd like to remind everyone that you can get your hang tag for free. Boat and kayak launches canoe launches from Town Hall. So the boat ramps are now free for Chesapeake Beach municipal residents, and that's a fantastic thing. Just come to Town Hall during business hours. Next, I would like to kind of tie two things together real quick. One is I would like to thank all those, obviously, that donated so much money to our victims of the fire. One of those was End Hunger in Calvert County, and it just so happens that I'm the captain for the town of Chesapeake Beach boat once again, and I'm proud to say that we got to $1,000, our first installment. So we're going to have light blue T-shirts, and I put in for our Friday 5 o'clock again for our practice the day before the actual race. And I'm really proud and happy to say that with these checks here, the checks that will have been delivered to End Hunger is now $1,575, so I'm $425 short. So if anyone wants to donate money to the Chesapeake Beach Dragon Boat, please let me know. So like I said, we're at the $1,575 mark, which is great. And finally, I look forward to any sort of 5G ordinance that might come through that I'll review and comment on. I think the sooner we do something, the better on that.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Is there a
And
motion to
happy Easter.
adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the ayes have it.
Hey. Hey, Jay, wanted to say thank you for the guy, Billy, helping out. They caught up with the guy from videotape on Tuesday. It was a dump truck that came up and did it from the construction.